Happy midweek, everybody. Glad to be joining you again and hope this video finds you well. This week for Midweek Reflection, the topic is patience. And I don't know about you, but some days I find mine running thin. Somebody mentioned we're a couple months in to this safer at home and the quarantine stuff, and I can't believe it's been that long. So, but I hope everybody's staying safe out there and doing as best as you can be doing. Before we get going, just a couple announcements, reminders. We've started having Sunday morning worship in the south parking lot. If you're able to come and join us, that would be great. Just tune your radios in to 90.5 FM. We have a small FM transmitter to help get the music and the words out. And so if you're coming in, make sure you stay in your cars. It's one of the ways we're able to do this is this. Everybody stays in their cars. We have a couple people out helping to direct traffic and handing out a sheet of paper for a bulletin. So also, as we continue to go through this, just a reminder, if you have any questions about why we do something, whether it's in our local church or in the United Methodist Church or in Christendom in general, why we do something, make sure to email those to me and I'll do my best to answer, to do have a little fun and learning. And also, haven't had any the last couple of weeks, ran out of trivia questions, but if y'all have some trivia questions about your family or yourself, pass those along and we can continue to get to learn about one another. So keep an eye out for the end of the week emails. And those emails, there's some more details and some help. I know CORE and the Midwest Distribution Center is something we'd be raising money for around this time of year. And I think I'm going to have some information about our local United Way as well here this week too, and some of the things that they're doing in our community. So hopefully this finds again, this video finds you well, and I'm excited to be with you. And so we're going to talk about patience.
The Irish cream sounds good, huh? What's that?
It's cream and it's Irish.
Hurry up and order!
Excuse me. Thank you. How about a smoothie? What's in that?
Smoothie's a juice drink. We want coffee.
Buddy, relax.
No, you relax. I'm a regular here. This line needs to move.
I beg your pardon. Do you have scones?
Tall, non-fat, double latte.
Sir, you're at the back of the line.
I recognize that.
Cut it out or you're out of here.
You can't kick me out.
You know what? You're really invading my ear space.
Look, I'm a frequent coffee drinker. I'm part of the club. I have a card. Do you have a card? Do you have a card?
No, I don't have
Does
a
anyone
card.
here have a card?
We don't have frequent drinker cards.
That's a video club card.
Ah!
Zip it there, Sporty Spice!
Are we doing this?
Oh.
Is this happening now?
Yeah, wanna
Sir?
Great, I'd
Let's
love
do
to.
it.
You're hurting me! You're hurting me! What is wrong with you, Derek? I thought we were friends!
My name is Andy!
Your name is Liar because you're telling lies! You know what? The odds are I will never come back here again! There's a good chance of that!
That's a chance we'll have to take.
Okay, if that's how you want to play it,
Okay.
I am disappointed!
God!
Okay, sure. So maybe our friend from our coffee shop is not only impatient, but maybe is suffering from a little bit of a caffeine withdrawal. But his impatient attitude shines through in a big way. Have you ever witnessed anything like this? If you've been out and about, whether it's in a store or a restaurant. I know I have, and when I have, there's always this awkwardness that sits heavy in the air while the impatient person continues on in the little kerfuffle they're in the midst of. There are many quotes and stories about patience. We already saw a couple of them around the video. We heard from Gandhi, to lose patience is to lose the battle. And maybe we've been in a situation where we can nod our head and say, oh yes, I've been there. We also heard a quote from a guy by the name of Scott Curran: when you encounter various trials, big or small, be full of joy, because they're opportunities to learn patience. And I think a little bit as we get through this reflection, we'll see why it's good to learn patience and why this is a good opportunity. There's also a quote from Leo Tolstoy: the two most powerful warriors are patience and time, as we can be patient and see things through. And of course, our own choir director, Cassie Slattery: patience is a virtue, and I don't have it. Folks, patience is something that comes up throughout the Bible. A lot of times people are being reminded that they have to be patient and trust in God. The early church is full of examples, as they had a lot of issues all around them and persecution. And there's a lot of times throughout the New Testament where folks are being encouraged to be patient. We're being reminded to be patient. And there's another saying really that we might recognize, and it goes something like this: she must have the patience of Job. Have you ever heard this saying, having the patience of Job? Well, this phrase comes to us as a reminder of Job's patience in the midst of long suffering. And we see it in the New Testament book of James, chapter 5, verses 10 and 11, where we hear this: brothers and sisters, and as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Job is one of the prophets we find in the Old Testament. He was a man who lost his children and his wealth all in one day. It was of no doing of his own. And the Old Testament book with his name on it is about his story with God. There are moments, I will admit, that Job is not very patient with God, and in fact, a lot of the struggles that he's had trying to figure out and reconcile with what's going on, he is not patient with God. He's very angry with God, but his perseverance to see it through the end is the book has a good ending. It's not all about how we can manage. Sure, there are things maybe we might be able to do to overcome our impatience, but it's not all about how we can manage. But as Christians, part of patience, I should say, is trusting in God. Are we relying in God as well? Patience is a part of the fruit of the Spirit that we read about in Galatians 5, and this is something that we can grow within us when we trust God, when we find ourselves in trying circumstances. As I mentioned earlier, the early church was always in the midst of trying circumstances, and the New Testament is full of encouragement and reminders about being patient and trusting in God. Now, there are certainly different levels of patience. Some people have their patience run out a lot quicker than others. Some may be too patient depending on the circumstances, and maybe some might be like this trucker. The story is told of a trucker who stopped to get gas and some food while on a long haul. The waitress had just served him when 3 swaggering, leather-jacketed bikers of the Hells Angels type entered in and walked right up to this trucker, apparently looking for a fight. One grabbed the hamburger off his plate, another took a handful of French fries, and the third picked up his coffee and began to drink it. The trucker didn't respond as one might expect. Instead, he calmly rose, picked up his check, walked to the front of the room, put the check and his money on the cash register, and just walked out the door. The waitress followed him to put the money in the cash register and stood watching out the door as the big truck drove away into the night. When she returned, one of the bikers said to her, "Well, he's not much of a man, is he?" She replied, "Well, I can't answer to that, but he's not much of a truck driver either. He just ran over 3 motorcycles out in the parking lot." So the trucker had some patience. Maybe this was a little different situation than we might find ourselves in, especially today when we're not allowed to eat in restaurants. But how's your patience? How are you doing through this time, through this pandemic that we find ourselves in? Folks, along with prayer and studying God's Word, keeping close to God during these trying times, there are some things that we can practice day in and day out to help with our patience that will work well with our Christian faith. In an article written by Kira Newman for the University of California, Berkeley, where she talks about a study on patience done in part by Fuller Theological Seminary professor Sarah Schnitker, she gives suggestions on what we might be able to do to help ourselves be more patient. It seems there are everyday ways to build patience. Here are some strategies that she suggests that might help that are in the midst of, or that come to us from emerging patience research. First, reframe the situation. Feeling impatient is not just an automatic emotional response. It involves conscious thoughts and beliefs too. If a colleague is late to a meeting, you can fume about their lack of respect or see those extra 15 minutes as an opportunity to get some reading done. Patience is linked to self-control, and consciously trying to regulate our emotions can help us train our self-control muscles. The second thing we might be able to do to help with patience, practice mindfulness. In one study, kids who did a 6-month mindfulness program in school became less impulsive and more willing to wait for a reward. It's also recommended that mindfulness practice for parents, taking a deep breath and noticing your feelings of anger or being overwhelmed, and that can help you respond with more patience. And the final thing that Keir suggests, practice gratitude. In another study, adults who are feeling grateful were also better at patiently delaying gratification. When given the choice between getting an immediate cash reward or waiting a year for a larger sum of money, less grateful people caved in once the immediate payment offer climbed. Grateful people, however, could hold out until the amount reached a little higher. If we're thankful for what we have today, we're not desperate for more stuff or better circumstances immediately. Maybe these 3 things can help a little bit. Again, those will reframe the situation that we're in the midst of. Practice some mindfulness, practice gratitude. Folks, that along with realizing, again, that patience was a part of the fruit of the Spirit, that so there's a connection with us and our relationship with God in this. I don't know about you, but not knowing when we'll be able to return to life as normal, it really tries my patience. I realize that I don't have it nearly as bad as many people and really doing pretty well. But I hope that we can all be reminded of God's love for us and grace in this time, for those times maybe when we're not as patient as we need to be, and reminded of His presence in these times, that knowing that we're not alone. Folks, patience is something that we can all work on, and in the end helps us to be a better neighbor, friend, or coworker. Let's just not find ourselves at the back of the coffee shop line trying to order over about 10 people in front of us. Folks, I hope the rest of your week goes well, and look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning. Bye-bye.